Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live presentation, Leveraging Machine Learning and Generative AI. My name is Eric Murphy, and I'll be your host for today's session. So I'd like to introduce today's presenters. Sean Leonard, CEO here at Active Demand. Sean is dedicated in helping businesses with advanced marketing strategies, marketing automation technology, sales and marketing expertise that is simple, effective, and affordable. As an entrepreneur, Sean has more than 30 years of successful experience launching, owning, operating, and growing businesses. And we have Saman Abutabra, data scientist here at Active Demand. Saman is passionate about bridging the gap between technology and marketing in ways that are both practical and impactful. With a background in data science and AI, he focuses on turning complex machine learning and AI concepts into tools that help drive businesses thrive. Saman is committed to making AI approachable, results-driven, and human-centered. And then also with us today is Mark Godfrey, Director of Technology at Lead Intuition, a great partner of ours. Throughout his career, Mark has been at the forefront of automation, beginning with a foundation in industrial automation's technical realm before transitioning to sales and marketing. With the emergence of generative AI, he has become increasingly passionate about intelligent automation to help businesses leverage technology and gain a competitive edge. So welcome again to everyone and our speakers. And with that, I will hand it over to my speakers.
Okay, this is Sean, and thank you all for taking the time to meet with us today. This is a very exciting topic for us, and we're very happy to be able to present. And I'm very fortunate to be sharing the presentation today with two people I respect greatly. Saman's definitely been driving AI and machine learning from within the company, and Mark has been one of the leading experts in leveraging Active Demand and leveraging AI. So we got a lot of content today in this presentation, and we're mindful of your time, so we want to make sure that it's valuable for you. And again, there's a bit of content, so hopefully we're not going to move too fast. And really, the objective here today is to on the technical side of things, is really to understand the differences between machine learning, generative AI, and the importance of building and setting a first-party data strategy. But at the end of the day, this is a marketing presentation, and I know a lot of the people on the call today are either marketing agencies or from we have a large group of people from the senior living industry, so it's a case that I will be referencing that throughout the presentation as well. So when we think about, and so I'm just going to switch first to step back and think about marketing, and specifically how people go through a buyer journey. And the context here is for senior living, moving a loved one or somebody moving into a new care environment. And if we think about that buyer journey, myself and my wife, we just went through the process ourselves, and that was about 3 weeks ago now. My mother-in-law has been moved into a new community. And what's interesting is that, I run a company that's hyper-focused on helping people drive occupancy in senior living, and my wife is a physician in senior living and has been for many years. What was surprising for our process is that how much we learned, right? So with this process of moving into a new care environment, definitely the participants, it isn't just a small purchase. It isn't just a small process. It's something that is emotional. It's a case that it requires, what's very interesting, is education. So if we think about the buyer journey in the context of the traditional funnel, the majority of it is learning, right? If we think about the people going through the journey and us as marketers engaging with that population, a large portion of this process is a learning process. And therefore, when we're thinking about the role of marketing, traditionally we've we've been trained it's about lead generation, but I argue as marketers, really our role is to help people through this buyer journey. Therefore, I argue that content performance is actually more important than purely lead generation from a strategy perspective. And if we focus on the content and focus on content performance, then we will be helping people through this process. And the reality is we will be ending up helping a lot more people and, of course, generating leads, etc. So I think the context for us all right now is that we've always been, as marketers, we've always been tasked with, doing magic with very little resources. But it's the case that it's actually transitioning now, and we're budgets are getting tighter, and we're definitely all facing difficulties finding the right people, etc. So the reality in this context, we must adapt to remain competitive. And pace setters, and I speak with so many operators and marketing agencies around the world, is that arguably the pace setters with certainty are embracing artificial intelligence to achieve above average, better marketing outcomes. And what's interesting as well with this journey, because if you think about AI, quite interestingly is I talk to people and they don't know there's a difference between machine learning and generative AI. They're actually two terms that are often confused. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, it'll be very clear to everybody what the differences between these two terms are and how it relates to producing better marketing outcomes with, of course, with less people and lower budgets. So the first I'm going to talk about, so we're going to sort of compare and contrast generative AI versus machine learning. And I'm going to start the process by describing, I think the most common and well-known aspect of AI is generative AI. So when we think about generative AI, it's really about processing content, right? That's using large language models that are pre-trained, and the idea is to engage with this model to create human-like responses to our queries or engagement. So it is definitely the pace setters are leveraging this to make content more readable, summarizing, generating. But definitely, it's a case that by far, I think this is the type of AI that people are most familiar with. A very quick example is that we have a project manager that's from another country, and my CTO had passed a job description to the project manager to get his feedback. And the project manager's native language is not English, and within minutes he sent it back, and it was completely rewritten, and it was fantastic. And she's like, "What?" So she called him, and he says, "Oh yeah, I just ran it through ChatGPT to sort of clean it up a bit." And of course, the result was outstanding. So definitely there is some great use cases for leveraging generative AI, and the models that I should say the large language models that we're the most familiar with is probably ChatGPT. There's a lot of buzz around DeepSeek and Facebook's Llama. So really the role of generative AI in marketing is, again, it's around content processing. So it can go, some people using it during the process of content generation, or whether it's generating the content or generating images, or like the example of the project manager, cleaning up content, right? Is that even my VP sales, she quite often before she sends a letter, she takes and asks AI to clean it up, and the responses are always much better. Another example is chatbots, which are definitely something that a lot of people are leveraging today, and something that people haven't probably really experienced is this content personalization. And we'll be talking about that later today. But definitely, it's the important aspect of generative AI to understand is it's really about improving outcomes, not predicting outcomes, right? So we can train our models as much as we want, but at the end of the day, it's not going to predict the response. And definitely, both with generative AI and machine learning, you'll see here that there is going to be a reliance on data. There is going to be a data piece of the story. So with generative AI, it does require training to get the best response from the system. So it's whether we're training our AI models with documents, facts, or what content the recipient has received before, or what their journey has been before. So there's definitely to get or what the individual is engaged with. As an individual engages with the model, it learns from that person. So there is a data dependency. So this means that we as marketers have to have a data strategy related to generative AI to get the best possible outcomes. So definitely things we should consider when we're leveraging generative AI is if we expect it to be a human, realize that it is not a human, and therefore it's we have to, if we just rely on it for content generating the content, the reality is I think there's going to be a gap, even if it is fine tuned. But if it is fine tuned, of course, we're going to get better results. But the end of the day is that there is the potential for generic content, and it is still again, it's not a human. There is a process of training the model, but the reality is the model, it doesn't think. It is still a machine, so it may miss today, anyways, nuances like the emotional context of a dialogue, etc. And definitely, there still needs to be humans involved in the process. So it's a case that we as humans still need to be part of the process to ensure that we're sort of in the process of delivering content to our recipients. And there are as well some legal and ethical concerns. Is that if people are training models on content that they do not own, then inadvertently the models could be plagiarizing or presenting biased perspective. Again, it goes back to the bullet before: is the human process of quality control when using generative AI. But definitely, this is something that I'm going to pace setters are using this, right? It's not, I have talked to people where there's still a bit of uncertainty and fear because of a lack of understanding. But with certainty, generative AI is providing, pace setters are leveraging this a lot. And the reasons you should be using it are one is enhanced creativity, right? Is that when I'm wanting to write, I'll just see what generative AI has to say about this topic. Okay, I can sort of get some ideas. It's sometimes like myself, I'll use it to just get the ball rolling. I won't go and copy and paste what the AI is presented with me, but it definitely reduces the labor to create content. And arguably, the most labor intensive aspect of marketing today is content generation. And if we can leverage tools like generative AI to help with the process, then definitely we're winning. Time saving, that's the other one, is right. Again, is that it isn't just about creativity, it's about how do I get more done? How do I scale content processes? And definitely generative AI is being leveraged by pacesetters to do this today so that people can focus on strategy, right? And that's really where I think my background's in industrial automation, just like Mark's. And it's the case that if we think about what industrial automation has done to manufacturing and process control, is it really changed the role of humans to use their minds more and less of their brawn, so to speak. And this is one here, and I know Mark's going to be talking about this today, is a personalization at scale, right? How do we make our content more effective? Actually, there's some fantastic ways to leverage generative AI to adapt content to an individual. And the other nice thing about generative AI is it's low barrier to entry, and it's like literally in the operating system. Everywhere you go, Google's pushing it, Microsoft's pushing it. You know, it is across the board. Everybody is engaging with it today, so it's a case that it requires uh, 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 less learning and less education to get a benefit out of it. So with that, now I was pausing there because I was going to say, with generative AI, you may not need somebody with, and I don't know how Saman walks around because he's got such a big brain, and it's a case that he has to pass it around. So with generative AI, yes, you get a benefit with somebody like Saman, but I would argue it's not like machine learning where there is a requirement for data scientists. So with that, I'll pass it over to our data scientist, Simon.
Thank you, Sean. Hello, everyone. So let's start from the basics. What is machine learning? You can think of machine learning as teaching a computer how to recognize patterns, just like we human do. But instead of giving it a strict set of rules, we give it data. From there, it starts to learn what's typical and what's unusual. For example, let's say we give it years of information about residents respond to different types of marketing campaigns. Now, the system can learn from that history and make predictions about which campaign might work best for a new contact. It's about giving the team tools to work smarter, but not necessarily harder. As an example, like the general use is when you watch Netflix, it suggests what you might like to watch from your past history. And in the same way, machine learning in like senior living might suggest the best time to follow up with the family or recommend the kind of the right message to respond to. So now that we understand what machine learning is, let's talk about how it's actually used. Machine learning works best when it has lots of data, like years of information from the business. It could be everything from marketing campaigns, results to residence inquiries, tours, move-ins, and etc. And what's powerful is that it can spot patterns we might not notice. For example, maybe it finds that certain messages or times of the day consistently lead to more tour booking. But we have never seen that trend clearly because the data is so big and spread out. So the key idea is here is it's using the past data to make the prediction. It's not just telling us what happened in the past. It helps us to look ahead and support us to make smarter decisions. As an example, you can imagine knowing in advance, like which leads are most likely to convert this month, or when a family is most likely to respond to an outreach. And that's where machine learning steps in. So why does machine learning matter for your community? It comes down to this: the better you understand your data, the better you can help families. Communities that collect and use their own data have a big advantage. This includes your CRM data, campaign histories, and resident journeys, and so on. Organizations that have years of this data, like pace setters, they are now able to use machine learning to predict things like which leads are to convert or how effective marketing channels are. So the bottom line is that if you can predict, you can be more efficient at helping the community, helping families to get the right information at the right time, and supporting your team to focus their efforts where they will make the most impact. So machine learning is not just a buzzword, it's something that actually moves the needle for the community. First, it's about data-driven decision making. It's not about gut feelings at a scale anymore. It can help you to spot high-value prospects and knowing which campaigns are working better and forecasting their future results and the occupancy trends and things like that. Then we have like automation of complex tasks. Think of things of like scoring leads, predicting which contacts might disengage, or organizing contacts by their behaviors. And then it will help teams to do faster and more confident. Another big benefit is improved accuracy over time. So the more data the machine learning model sees, the smarter it gets. So it's not one-time setup, but it's a system that learns and adapts with your business. And finally, the scalability. Whether you're running a single campaign or reaching out across multiple locations and channels, it can handle all of them. It doesn't get overwhelmed by the amount of data. On the other hand, it gets better and better and keeps working and including all those locations, channels, interactions, and so on. So while it offers a lot of exciting opportunities, we need to understand the limitations as well. We want to be realistic and responsible in the way that we use these tools. So first, it requires large and standard quality data. If the data is messy, incomplete, or biased, the predictions might go off. That's why having a good data strategy is the key to start applying machine learning. The second is it's not plug and play. Implementing it requires technical knowledge and time, and sometimes powerful computing resources that we handle that part for you. But it's good to know that it's not magic behind the scene. It's just sorting out the data, using the past patterns, and using that for prediction for the future. The third item is it's not a creative engine, as it's great at spotting trends or suggesting the actions, but at the end of the day, it doesn't replace the human creativity for messaging, branding, or adding that personal touch and personal connection. And finally, explainability sometimes can be a challenge, especially with more advanced models. It acts like a black box. It gives you the result, but it's not easy to understand why it gave that result. That's why we use the models that balance the performance with clarity and are always happy to walk through results with you. So to compare, machine learning is like a smart assistant that analyzes data and helps you make better decisions for future. For example, it might tell you which leads are likely to convert or when a resident is at risk of leaving. It's data-driven and really good at solving problems and predictions. On the other hand, generative AI is more like a creative assistant. It can help you write emails, suggest ad copies, or even hold a chatbot conversation. It doesn't analyze past trends. It creates something new based on what it has learned from previous examples. So now that we have seen what machine learning and generative AI can do, the question is which one should you use? If you're trying to understand your audience better, like who's most likely to book a tour, who might be slipping away, or how to improve occupancy, then machine learning is the way to go. It gives you those data-driven insights that help you make smarter decisions. But if your role is to speed up content creation, writing emails, building engagement sequences, or personalizing messages at a scale, then generative AI is your best friend. It's like having a creative assistant that never gets tired of writing. So machine learning helps you target the right people, and generative AI helps you to say the right thing to them at no time. And you can imagine the combo. For example, the machine learning helps you figure out which families to reach out this week, and then the generative AI helps you draft the best email that they can respond positively back to that. I'll hand it over to Sean to continue with some use cases in our company. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Saman. Yeah, definitely you can see how these two aspects of AI can work together, right? It isn't but understanding how to use each of the tools, I think, the role of the tool in the process is important. But there's a third aspect to this, both whether you're using generative AI or you're using machine learning, it is about the data. Because the reality is, to get better marketing outcomes, you need to have the data to drive drive the AI. So really, we need to have a sound first-party data strategy, and not just little pieces of the data. We're going from the anonymous visitor on your website all the way through to the person moving in. So one aspect of the data collection and data warehousing process is the behaviors of the individuals, right? So what is what content are they consuming? What ads are they engaging with? What pages are they looking at? What are they talking about on the phone? What are they chatting about? So it's really the behavioral aspects of the journey that is very, very powerful. But really, at the end of the day, the immense amount of data that involves in the behavior aspect is quite often misunderstood of how much data is actually there. Most people, they think about the other side of the journey, which is sales engagement. Very important, there's no doubt about it. Just like machine learning and generative AI, behavioral data on the people and families engaging in the process, as well as the sales engagement. That you need actually both to truly get a vision of what the family's journey truly is. And if you do have a first-party data strategy that collects this entire data set, you're in a fantastic position to leverage AI. So I'm just going to pass things over. And now the next part of this presentation, we're going to start talking about, instead of just theory, we're going to start going into real use cases of and examples of how generative AI and machine learning are producing better marketing outcomes. So I'm just going to pass things over to Mark to talk about use cases for generative AI.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Sean. So I'm now going to look at how we can use generative AI, and in particular, with a particular emphasis in using it within active demand. So to use it within active demand, you need to connect active demand to a paid OpenAI account to enable the ChatGPT models. Once you've done that, then you have access to a whole new set of tools within active demand. And one of the first use cases that most people usually jump for is content creation. And you can see there in this slide that you can write a piece of text and then click on the magic AI button and ask it to improve it for you, or to summarize it better, or to expand. So it's a great way of, if you have one of those writer's block days, you get something down and you think, I know I can do this better. Your little friend that OpenAI can help you improve that writing. It can do things like change the tone, summarize, and so on for you. It's a very useful feature, and just play with it. Just give it a go. You can always delete what it says and go back to what you had before. Some of the other things, if any of you have got the phone connected as a tracked phone, if you have call transcripts enabled, you are already using generative AI, and the service goes off after the phone call, analyzes the phone call, converts it to text, and then sends that back to you. And that's already being done by generative AI. But there's other things that you can certainly use it for, in terms of like analyzing survey results or any kind of result data. Generative AI is very good at looking at it and telling you what's good, what's bad, what you can do better. It can analyze prospect journeys. Where did they come from? Where are they going? What are the things they're continually looking like? And the other one would be something like lead classification, where, is this a hot or a cold lead, or is it warm. You can build those kind of queries in generative AI to give you a better indication for what's a hot prospect and what's a cool prospect. Or when a cold prospect suddenly becomes warm. Those are the kind of things that generative AI can help you spot and alert you to them. Or with automation, can start putting them into campaigns without you doing any intervention. So really, what's the use cases? Well, it's like having a new employee in the business. They are new, they don't know much about your business. So AI, you have to tell it and you have to be very explicit about what you want it to do. But it's that helping hand that we all need that's pretty much new on the block. And also, the people that you're going to be communicating with in your marketing, they are unique as well as the employees. So by analyzing the data that we are collecting about our prospects and contacts in active demand, we can start analyzing that and give personalization and contextualization in our outputs. So something like this is an email, for example, where they are to different people, they have different needs, but we can change on the fly what their emails look like when they come out based upon what we know about them and the data we've collected on them. So you can see that as we go through each email here, it's a similar message, but the context is changing each time. So a little bit about AI generated content in general. We can use it to generate unique content for each individual in our database, but it's only as good as the instructions you give it. And that's where a lot of people start to get a little wary, or they say, oh, AI just doesn't work for us. It does, you just don't know how to prompt correctly to get that output that you're looking for. So it can analyze anyone in our database for their behaviors, their preferences that they've expressed either deliberately or inadvertently when they surf our website, and we're collecting that kind of information. And we can then use all of that information we have to start producing personalized content for them at scale. This is not just a one-off email. This is any kind of communication that we have with them can know what we know about them and have those conversations with them. So that ensures that every interaction that we have has a purpose, but it's based on the data-driven strategy that we've set up earlier when we're collecting the data that we talked about previously. So what's it good for? Well, you can certainly use it for things like leads that have a low engagement with you and you think that they should be doing better. So we can produce campaigns with AI generated content to try and engage low engagement leads. Re-engagement. So if someone's been quiet for the last 3 weeks, 3 months, maybe the lead has gone quiet. It's not going to, you don't want a salesperson sitting there going through each and every lead and writing a very specific email for them with personalization. This is one area where AI is really excelling in that it can take over the job that possibly has a 1 in 10 chance of working, doing it in the background quietly for you to resurrect cold leads or old leads. And if you're doing that kind of thing as a daily part of your daily work, then we're all going to have writer's block moments. AI is very good at overcoming those kind of moments. So a little bit about the prompt, and there is a QR code in the corner there. It's going to take you to a document that I prepared to help you, because I'm not going to be able to show dynamically in slides some of this stuff in action. So There's a QR code there. Please feel free to download it. Honestly, I'm not tracking you, even though I do have an active demand package. It's a free download for now. So AI is very good at generating output, but it's only as good as the instructions that you give it. And it needs very clear and specific language. This is what we call the prompt. A lot of people just haven't spent time in developing what is a good prompt technique. You need to provide it some context, specific instructions. You need to give it a tone. So it's the kind of tone of voice. Is it business friendly? Is it professional? Is it legal? All of those kind of things you build into the prompt in the way that you want to communicate with people. You also tell it the output formats that you want, a paragraph of text, a bullet point list, those kind of things. If you tell it, that's what it'll give you. But you also need to set any limitations or constraints, like, never mention the partner's name, or don't go near subject A or subject B, or don't be too personal with the analysis of data that you output. So this is where I'm going to try and put that in action for you. I'm just going to, here is effectively an active demand email editor screen. And this content block here is the AI content block that you see over here. Just drag it in and pull it in. You can see that in this email, I'm using the standard greeting, and we've got a kind of standard signature block. When you click within here, you'll reveal probably something might be a whole new world to some people. So within this block is where you put the prompt. And you remember I talked about it needs to be structured. So the first thing you need to tell any AI is what and who they are. So in this particular one, we've told it that it's a friendly customer support representative and a senior living community, and your job is to write engaging content to ask if they're still interested in moving to the community. What are the inputs? Well, any of you that are familiar with active demands, dynamic terms, I'm telling it, you're going to be using contact first name, the community name. Now, the reason why mine doesn't show the community name is because I don't have active demand for senior living. I have an agency package. So I've created a fake community using a dynamic term. It's called Faulty Towers, and if any of you are familiar with British comedy, you'll know where that came from. And I've pulled in the relationship with my closest partner. I've then given it a set of instructions about what I wanted to do. Give me a 50-word paragraph, or 50 to 60-word paragraph. I want them to mention the name of the partner, in that makes it a little bit more personal. Do not include any details about, or don't go too deep, but we want to find out, are they interested in our community? And what kind of output I'm looking for. I'm just looking for a paragraph of text. If they have to go to multiple paragraphs, I've asked it to space it and just be a good egg. The model, ChatGPT-4, it's a good place to start. These two settings here, temperature. Temperature basically controls how random the response is of the large language model. Stay low. 0, 0.1, 0.2 is a good number. The P stands for probability, and when large language models talk together, they basically look at the probability that the word A, B, C follow each other in the alphabet, or pet shop, or are two words that follow each other. So if you have a low number on here, it's low numbers for temperature and top P. You have low risk of it going wild. If you set this temperature to 0.9, the outcome, you should play with it, can be quite unexpected. So that's the email, and never do live demos of software. So here we go. I'm sending myself a test email. You remember I'm at Faulty Towers. I should say my name is Marky Mark in my test account, and my partner is Gene. So going to my email box, and there it is. Hey, Marky Mark, just reaching out to see if you and Gene are still interested in moving to Faulty Tower.
Thanks for that, Mark. And Marky Mark, and I'll take over and just go on to the machine learning part of this. The thing that is sort of the term for prompt building and prompts focusing on getting prompts right is prompt engineering. And we've got some new tools coming out that'll help with that process, and definitely download Marky Mark's book on a guide to building prompts. So now I'm going to switch things over and I'm going to talk about leveraging machine learning in a use case. So if we go back to the original slide that I talked about, is that really what should we be doing as marketers? And I'm a firm believer that if our foundation of marketing is with the thinking about how am I going to help people, right? Then, and the importance of content in the process of helping people. Definitely content performance is something that should be part of everybody's strategy, content performance improvement. And it's a case that with generative AI, there's lots of opportunities to adapt the individual messages to the individual person based on what we know about the individual. But if we think about the content consumption and from a content performance perspective, it is really based on the recipient stage of the journey, what the care type is, what how their family are engaging, etc. So this is I think a big opportunity for machine learning. Now, if we think about the traditional tech stack that's used in senior living today, Active Demand as the CDP or first-party customer data platform, it's tracking all engagement with your website for everybody from the first touch on the website through every piece of content, the ads they're engaging with, the content they're consuming, etc. And then once that contact gets to the stage of the journey where they're ready to engage with somebody at the community, it's passed off, of course, into the CRM. And the CRM, this is where your staff or project managing the relationship with the individuals. Now, Active Demand is not only collecting all of the data from the individuals on the website, and it's also collecting all of the data from the CRM. So every task that's built, all the relationships between the contacts, the demographic information that's put into the CRM, the move-ins, the tours, the deposits, Active Demand is also collecting all of that. So from a data perspective, it's a case that it is a warehouse for an immense amount of first-party data for each community. So definitely from a data perspective, it's a case that it is definitely used by pace setters as the single version of truth to understand. But now we're going to take it one step further and look at how we leverage that data set to improve move-ins. So if we think about, we'll start with the person who's moving in, right? Now, like I said, I just went through this process with moving my mother-in-law to a better living environment, a community about 3 weeks ago. Now, she was at the stage of her life and health where she relied on her support network to help with this process. So in the process of my mother-in-law, or even my mom, it's a case she's not using the internet today, mother-in-law as well. So she relies on her children to help with this process. Now, for example, for myself and my wife, myself, I'm an engineer, and I run a software company. My wife is a physician, right, in senior living. So our backgrounds are very different. And the reality is, both of us are going through a journey of learning. Now, if you think about the communities that we're engaging with, even if they're pace setters, with certainty, their strategy with their content is, here's my content. Go figure it out, right? And so the content that I need is very different than the content my wife needs. And so if I'm on the website, I have to sort through the content. Or if we think about the emails that are being sent to us, they're going to be exactly the same, right? Even if we're leveraging generative AI to make it more readable for ourselves, at the end of the day, the stage of the journey that each of us are in and the backgrounds of each of us are unique, but the strategy for delivering the content is always the same. Here it is. We believe this is the right one for you, and or go to the website and figure it out. So really, this is something that we've invested heavily in from an R&D perspective, and something we call our content engagement system. So I won't go too far into the weeds on this, but I really want to build this foundation for how we're going to leverage machine learning to improve content performance. So in our platform, the object that is representing content, we call it a content card. And it is some object that represents or is a promise about some piece of content. For example, a blog post. So we're not sending the blog post, we have this object that represents the promise of the blog post. And this is the piece of content that we are going to disseminate to the world, the audience, right? We're going to share it on social media. We're going to send emails. We're going to present it in on the website, on the blog roll. So this is the object that we're actually sharing. And now that we have this concept of an object, we can track the engagement of that object. So this content card, as we call it, if somebody goes to the website, they consume that card. We'll register that individual read that a specific piece of content. Or if it's a case that they engage with it in social media, or engage with it in email, or click it in a pop-up. If they engage with the content, we also are tracking this on a per person basis. And whether they see it, we register a content view. So we're tracking the entire content set and the consumption of this content on a per community basis and a per person basis. So clearly there's a large data set that we have access to on the community. So not just the individual's entire journeys and the consumption of the content, but also the engagement with the sales team. So this provides we have a large data set. Therefore, if we push this into machine learning, which is a set of high power computers that are attacking the data from all these different angles, trying to find patterns to produce a predictive model. So this model is what will be used to predict some aspect of the journey. And specifically, what we've done with this predictive model is if we pass it a contact record and all of its journey to that, all the data, the content they've consumed themselves, what they've engaged with on the website, what they've engaged with sales, all of the stuff that they've done in the journey at this point in time, push it to the predictive model. It takes the entire content library and it orders it based on highest probability of helping that person move towards a move-in. So really the data that the person sees or the content they are presented is unique based on that person's. So if they go today, this is the content they'll see. If they go tomorrow, their journey is evolved and the model is evolved. And if somebody else comes to the website, in the case, let's say the person's spouse, the content they will see is going to be unique based on the predictive model. So really, if there's an individual, if this is the right piece of content, whether we're sending an email or we're delivering it via virtual sales assistant or what have you, the content that is will be presented to them is the ideal content based on the predictive model. And so really the idea here is leveraging machine learning to attack one of the, or solve one of the most labor intensive and most important processes in marketing for senior living, which is content. And if we can get the right content at the right time to an individual and recognize that each individual is unique in their journey, then if we're able to present the content that helps them the most, it has a direct correlation to driving more move-ins. So long presentation here with lots of content. Again, two concepts that I wanted to talk about and we did was the difference between generative AI and machine learning, and how pace setters are definitely leveraging AI today to produce better marketing outcomes. And definitely to get the best results, you need a sound data strategy. And really, I think the message you should leave with this is not about generative AI versus machine learning. It's about what am I doing about the data? So that is, and we have an ebook here, Leveraging Machine Learning and AI. If you just want to, I'll leave this up and I'll hand this back over to Eric.
Thank you very much, Sean. So on behalf of everyone here at Active Demand and our partners at Lead Intuition, want to thank everyone for joining us today. We hope you found the presentation worthwhile, and we hope to see you again in the future. That concludes our presentation for today. Thank you all.